Elden Ring Nightreign. This game has a parry, so it makes it into parry review. Hooray everyone, rejoice! Elden Ring finally has a proper parry. The parry which it should have had all along. The parry that didn't quite work when they did the deflecting hard tier for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, they finally got it right. So a lot of people have been doubting this game, calling it a cash grab. Here on Parry Reviews, the fact that this game finally has a proper parry, a Sekiro-like parry, makes this the best iteration of Elden Ring we have gotten so far, or will probably ever see. So I fired up this game today, and I don't know anything, I don't understand anything, all I know is that you pick the executioner, you pick him, and you start parrying. I don't even grab items off of the floor. I mean, I will eventually in my next run, but for this run, all I did was parry. And you gotta love it. You gotta love a good parry in a good game. So let's get into it. This class, the Executioner, whom can parry, is likely not like the best class. He's probably not gonna be like the S tier in some of those YouTube tier lists. But he has a parry, and probably from the melee focus classes, this guy will probably be the best one. Not from the magic users, not from that perspective, but from the melee guys, Executioner is probably the #1 melee guy, just because of the parry. I don't know how many times you have to parry in order to do this, but once you parry enough times, if you press the left bumper, or the left trigger, I switched a bit the controls. But anyway, if you press one of the left shoulder buttons, you're gonna do like this samurai dash attack. It's not technically a counter because you don't have iframes, but you have to know when to time it. You have to be wise when using it, and if used properly, it can kind of function as a counter, but know that you do not have iframes. So the parry, how do you do the parry? Normally when you start a game as the Executioner, you have his regular sword. If you want to parry, you have to press the Y button on Xbox or the triangle on PlayStation, and then press the one of the left shoulder buttons, and then that'll switch you into parry mode. The act of engaging parry mode counts as a parry. So basically, if an enemy attacks you and you switch swords, you will parry. Note that you have to be switching to the parry sword and not to the regular sword. So if an enemy attacks and you switch to your parry sword, that will parry. And then you can keep parrying, which will be the other shoulder button, the other left shoulder button, opposite to the one you use to switch swords. That will be your parry button. I know it's confusing because I think I swapped the left trigger for the left bumper and the left bumper for the left trigger. It's just more comfortable for me to parry that way. So once you're in your parry stance, you parry by pressing the left trigger. I use the left trigger. And I can't remember if in Sekiro you have 7 or 12 frames for parrying. It's probably 7. But here you have a little bit more frames than Sekiro for parrying. So know that parrying in Nightreign is easier than parrying in Sekiro. Now, here's my major gripe with the parry. Obviously, if your back is turned to the enemy, you will take damage and you will not parry. And that's a problem because enemies will swarm you in this game, and they won't take turns attacking. They will more or less try to attack you all at once. And you can only parry from the front, so you have to like funnel enemies in front of you and line them up in front of you if you want to like successfully parry everything. If you let yourself get surrounded, parry is basically worthless because you're gonna parry something in front of you, and then some sneaky guy is gonna hit you from the back, and that'll disturb all of your progress. Like all of your flow that you were doing correctly, it all goes away because some guy hit you in your back. Now this is both good and bad. It's good because it stops the parry from being just utterly and completely overpowered. It is then bad because it sort of defeats the purpose of the parry a little bit. Not for me, not here in parry reviews, you know that here in this channel, guys, we're gonna go out of our way to parry. If you've been paying close attention to the footage I've been showing you, sometimes I just stand still and wait for guys to attack just so I can parry. Which is insane. You shouldn't do that in like a real fight in real life. But this is Elden Ring and we do what we want. Because we like to parry. Speaking of not being able to block from behind and enemies swarming you, switching targets kinda also... they should do something with this game where as soon as you press the parry button, you face the nearest enemy. And then that makes total sense. That's the way it is in Blades of Fire. Right, you can turn your back to the enemy, but as soon as you press the parry button, which is also the block button, you immediately face your enemy and you parry. So in that other game, in Blades of Fire, you cannot block in all directions, but the game pushes the front of your body towards the enemy so that you can successfully parry. This game should have that, but maybe only for the Executioner class. It's kind of like a big ask because when you program something like that into a game, it's gonna be like for all characters and not just a single class. So I get why they didn't do it. Now let's talk more about the parry mechanics. You don't have to just parry. If you hold the parry button, you will block. However, that's not necessarily a good idea because the more precise you are with your parries, the more you conserve stamina. And the game will let you know you're parrying correctly because you're going to see the orange sparks from the successful parry. However, if you're imprecise with your parry, you won't take damage, but you will lose more stamina, and you will see less of the orange sparks fly off. It'll basically be like a semi-parry where you didn't take damage, but the game also isn't going to give you like the full reward of successfully parrying. And then if you fail too much at parrying, you lose way too much stamina, and then you completely deplete your posture, and then you're like vulnerable to damage, and the enemies will completely gang up on you. So let me just get this out of the way. Parry metric, 7 out of 10 on the parry metric on the fun and enjoyment scale. Let's give it a 7 out of 10 as well for now. We can bump up the score later, but for now, just a 7 out of 10 total score. I want to keep discussing the parry because the targeting system in this game doesn't bring out the full potential of the parry. You should be able to lock off of an enemy, right? You're not locked on to anybody. And then you're like ebbing and flowing, you know, like a boxer, you know, just dodging, doing the head movements, the weaving, the bobbing. All of that should translate into the parry. I know that sounds overpowered, but the other choice is leaving the parry as it is now, and then constantly having to lock on to enemies so that you can face them and successfully parry, and then lock off of enemies so that you can observe your surroundings, but then once you face the enemy you were parrying, you kind of like, you looked away for a second and bam, you get hit from a guy you were already successfully parrying. I don't know, it's kind of nonsense because there's a great parry to be had in this game, but its full potential is not being brought out because, and I know why they're doing this, because it would glorify the Executioner too much, and it would diminish the rest of the character classes just too much. And as it is, I haven't played any other character, aside from the other one, the Wilder that you get in the very tutorial. Right, I haven't played any other classes, but as it stands now, Executioner is likely the best melee-focused character. And then the best character is some other, probably some long-range character. I don't know, I haven't played any other class. And if they buff the parry, then the Executioner is gonna go up. Might go up into S tier and just be like ridiculously overpowered. I would put the Executioner as he is now somewhere between either B tier or A tier, or somewhere in between. But he's not S tier. I mean, not unless some crazy, wacky, woohoo pizza man comes up in here and does like the craziest build. Something like Executioner, super overpowered build that kills everyone. You know, something like that, something really crazy. I am going to keep playing this game. I'm just like, I wanted more from the parry. Not that I should ask for more. I'm not gonna ask for more. Like, I was very disappointed with deflecting hard tier in Shadow of the Earth Tree, and I'm just very happy that they finally got the parry right. Note that the parry here in Nightreign is tied to your stamina. That's very important. So then that synergizes with the core mechanic of Elden Ring, where attacking and dodging cost stamina, and now blocking and parrying cost stamina as well. I mean, blocking always costs stamina, but basically what I'm trying to explain to you is that this is the perfected deflecting hard tier. They basically mixed deflecting hard tier with the Sekiro parry and finally managed to get it right. I don't know what else to say, so I'll leave it here for now. Thanks for watching, take care, and enjoy. If I think of something else, I'll leave it in the comments, and I'll let you know that way, through the comment section.